Championship. Now to a
Player manager Graham Souness has denied stories that he's about to sell goalkeeper Chris Woods. Writing in the club's official newspapers, Souness says Chris Woods will not, repeat not, be going to Manchester United or any other club. Tough talk from the Rangers boss, but sources close to Woods have told me that a move south of the border is very much on. Apparently Woods' wife Sarah has found it difficult to settle in Scotland, and the player also feels appearing in England would improve his chances of taking over as first choice for the international side. Manchester United manager Alex Ferguson is on the hunt for a keeper. The other clubs rumoured to be interested are Arsenal and West Ham, although the size of any possible fee could be a problem. The story that's hitting the headlines just now, Chris Woods leaving Rangers, is that really possible, do you think?
Chris Woods will not be leaving Rangers in the foreseeable future. Now, I spoke to Graham Souness less than an hour ago, and Graham spelled the thing out to me quite clearly. There has been no approach for the player has not asked for a transfer, and Rangers definitely have not put him on the transfer list as was reported. So a lot of nonsense been spoken here.
Do you think, though, that there's a possibility that with an unsettled family, Woods may decide in the coming months, I don't want to stay in Scotland?
Well, there's a lot of talk about Mrs Woods here. Mrs Woods does not play for Rangers. That family has given a commitment to Rangers, who spent £600,000 on the goalkeeper. I think he's definitely got to play till the end of the season. Rangers involved in the European Cup and the Championship. They've a lot ahead of them. It's a big commitment for the player and the club, and I would expect him fully to stay there till the end of this season.
Jeremy, thank you very much.
Winning here, England went down in West Germany, but comments allegedly made by Rangers English goalkeeper Chris Woods in Germany late last night will doubtless cause further unrest here. Woods has been linked in various newspapers this week with Manchester United, stories which have been vigorously denied at Ibrox. But last night, Woods is said to have commented to a Manchester Evening News reporter that it was every footballer's dream to play for Manchester United and that he was no exception. That newspaper even ran the headline tonight, "My Dream, I'd Love to Play for the Reds," by Chris Woods. But it should be noted that Woods actually said he would only be interested in going to Old Trafford if, for any reason, Rangers were to choose to sell him. Meanwhile, maybe Bobby Robson should have thought about fielding the Rangers keeper instead of Peter Shilton. The English went down 3-1 to the West Germans. Dean play St Mirren, Dundee United stay home to Hibs, Falkirk meet Celtic, Hearts meet Motherwell, Morton meet Dundee, and Rangers stay home to Dunfermline. And 6 weeks after his official signing for Rangers, Englishman Trevor Francis will make his debut for the Ibrox club against Dunfermline at Ibrox tomorrow. He was Britain's first ever £1 million player, and 7 years ago, in a Nottingham Forest jersey, he was doing the kind of thing Rangers hope he'll do tomorrow.
Balls off to Anderson. Owen back there. Dean. Oh, that was a stupid ball. It's Bertels. And Godden still gets it away. Now Anderson. McGovern. There were several. Oh! And Mills has done it! Well, Albion absolutely dug their grave and dived straight into it. Twice in a row, the back pass to the goalkeeper. And that one, Francis punished them severely. 2-1.
So, Jerry McNee, Trevor Francis is back and in a Rangers jersey.
That's right, Trev plays tomorrow. I think Mrs Francis told him to get out there and earn a few shillings because of the cupboards bare. You know, he only gets paid when he turns out. But seriously, I think this is a great day for Scottish football. I was lucky enough to go to Italy and watch both Francis and Souness play for Sampdoria when they were there, and if you told me I'd see them in Scottish football, I wouldn't have believed you.
Some people say, Jerry, maybe unkindly, that Francis is injury prone.
Well, this will be levelled at him, of course, but he's a quality player, and as I say, I think it's a great thing for the game in this country. There'll be a huge crowd there tomorrow.
A good chance too for Rangers of the return of Terry Butcher.
Terry Butcher will play tomorrow. That's great news for the Rangers fans, and of course it's very important with the European Champions Cup tie coming up in Kiev next week.
Speculation today, Jerry, that Rangers were experiencing some problems with the screening at Ibrox of their European match in Kiev next week.
Yes, well, those problems, if there were any, have been overcome. I was told just an hour ago that game definitely goes on at Ibrox Stadium on the giant screens, no doubt about it.
It's an ambitious plan, isn't it?
It is, and again, you'll have a capacity crowd. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Again, Old Firm, we're sticking to the Old Firm tonight. Celtic's Billy McNeill has jetted off to Dortmund to have a look at them. That's right, Celtic doing their homework here. They've watched Dortmund a few times now. They know it's going to be mighty tough for them. I think Celtic will do well to get through next week, but they are doing their homework. An interesting weekend ahead, Jerry. Well, finally, thanks to the many hundreds of you who have entered our league predictions competition, tonight we bring it to an end. Remember, we asked you for your predictions as to who would end up first, second and third in the Premier League race come May next year, and who would be relegated, that is, who'd end up in positions 10, 11 and 12. Cup final tickets are the prize, plus a champagne lunch on us. For now, we'll retain the entries and obviously announce the winners when the league race is eventually decided. But one entry on this very day beats the lot. It's come from someone who calls himself Crazy Horse, and according to him, Morton will win the Premier League this season while Falkirk will be runners-up. And he says with confidence that Aberdeen, Rangers and Celtic will all be relegated. If that happens, Crazy Horse, we certainly have got ourselves a story.
Must be a bookie.
Football, and Trevor Francis is likely to make his debut for Rangers tomorrow at Ibrox against Dunfermline. The former England international has been injured since signing during the close season. There's been no confirmation today, as the Ibrox club has suddenly become rather shy, refusing to accept calls for manager Souness, assistant Walter Smith or chairman David Holmes. It remains to be seen if they'll resume their pursuit of publicity after their forthcoming appearance before the SFA Disciplinary Committee. Meanwhile,
Rangers warm up for Russia. Goals from Ali McCoist. Grace from new boy Trevor Francis.
The Rangers goalkeeper Chris Woods, and the big question for the Rangers fans is, will Woods remain at Ibrox, or is he on his way to England and perhaps to Manchester United?
5 Scottish clubs begin their European campaign this week. Who can emulate Dundee United's feats of last season? Among others, one of the legends of British football, Sir Matt Busby. Hello, good afternoon, and in a moment Chris Woods tells us of his plans after a week of speculation about his future as Rangers goalkeeper. In our usual busy programme this afternoon, I've got a real mixed bag for you in my memory lane spot. They say here I'm the only one who can remember some of the clips, but I'm looking forward to that nostalgic trip nevertheless. But first, with that news on Chris Woods, here's Ian Archer.
Yes, Arthur, there's been a week of speculation about the future of the English goalkeeper. This story was typical. Manchester United for me, says Woods. Right or wrong? There was only one way to find out. We went and asked the man himself.
Chris, a major concern for Rangers supporters has been the press coverage to suggest that you may want to leave Rangers. Is there any truth in that?
No, none at all. There's been a lot of rumours and a lot of silly people starting horrible rumours about both myself and my wife being unhappy here, which is totally ridiculous. And I wasn't too happy, like I say, with those rumours, especially about my wife, because she loves living here, and you know, she's very happy.
It has been fairly persistent over a couple of weeks, even to the point of Manchester United being named as a club apparently you wanted to go to.
Yes, that was all taken in the wrong sort of context of conversation there. It cropped up amongst numerous questions which I was avoiding to answer, and like I say, they take it all the wrong way, so and then they've made a big story out of it.
So can the Rangers fans be reassured there's no question of Chris Woods wanting to leave before the end of the contract?
That's right. I'm just here to play football and hopefully win the championship again, sorry, and you know, go on to win hopefully the European Cup and whatever there is to win.
So Chris Woods stays at Ibrox. The only question's whether he's really needed, because he certainly wasn't yesterday against Dunfermline. Rangers wanted sparring practice and no more before going to Russia with our love to meet Dynamo Kiev in the European Cup on Wednesday. That's what they got, and what 40,000 fans... Welcome back. This is European Week, when Scotland's footballers reach for their passports and head for foreign fields, and when Englishmen rue what they're missing. There's no doubt European football has given the Scottish game glamour and excitement. In 1967, Celtic became the first British side to win the European Cup. The Lisbon Lions were born. In 1972, Rangers followed them, winning the European Cup Winners' Cup, beating Moscow Dynamo in Barcelona, celebrating all the way back to Ibrox. And 4 years ago, Aberdeen made it a treble, winning the same competition on a rainy Gothenburg night against Real Madrid. European football's a time when you forget all about club allegiances. If they're Scots and they're a long way from home, you're on their side. And just every so often you find yourself jumping up and down on the continent at an unexpected success. Here's one of my favourites. Rangers in Eindhoven, 1979. The European Cup, no goals from the first Ibrox leg.
It's got off to the worst possible start when they conceded a goal in the very first minute. A move building up on the right. And watch as this comes in. A beautifully struck half volley there by Greavsie. And that was 1-0 to PSV. But Rangers kept going at the Dutch champions and got their reward in the second half. The ball coming to McLean on the edge of the penalty area. He curls it in for Alex McDonald's header and in off Van Engelen in the PSV goal. So that was 1-1. PSV edged back in front when Jerry Dykers scored with a rather fortunate overhead kick here, dipping just under the Rangers crossbar. But after 66 minutes, Rangers drew level for the second time. The ball coming from the free kick to Kenny Watson and in off Derek Johnstone's head. That was 2-2, and that was enough to put Rangers through on the away goals rule. But they really put the seal on a marvellous performance when McLean plays a lovely through ball here for Russell, takes it on, cool as you like, and wraps it up for Rangers.
Great night that was. And just last season, the same scenario. No goals from the first leg at Tannadice between Dundee United and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Shape up, Aberdeen and Celtic. They'll play on Tuesday. The other three Scottish sides on Wednesday. Paul, sorry to remind you of that defeat at Tannadice, but that was a great run for United last season. What have you got as a club that helps?
Ipswich Town said that they were in the same trap. So obviously there's nothing new either to English or Scottish football. It's just unfortunate that we ended up with nothing last year, but hopefully we can go a stage further and maybe do something this year.
Good, well we can have a look at Coleraine, your first opponent. Celtic last season.
Yes.
This is the second leg and that's Oleg Blokhin, former European Footballer of the Year, putting them into the lead. And Celtic actually came back, scored a goal, lost two later on in the match. Kiev v Rangers, Paul, you heard Trevor Francis say that it's not, no disrespect to Dunfermline, but it's a different league out there.
It is a different league, yes, but I think the experience with Terry Butcher and especially Graham Souness with their European experience, I think it will stand them in good stead for that game. I think all the pressure is on Kiev. Obviously, I think Rangers will contain them and hopefully snatch them on the break. And if you saw Ali McCoist earlier on, yeah, he's so sharp.
The interesting thing is that Kiev are only 7th in the league this season, and they only had 3 players in the Russian side last week against France, and there they were on the crest of a wave and they've gone downhill ever since.
Well, hopefully for Scottish football they can continue that trend.
Right.
I think Rangers will do okay over there.
Quickly, the other 3 games, in a word, sorry, the other 2 games, scoring sensation, Ali McCoist. The good news is there's hardly a European injury doubt. Celtic hope to have Anton Rogan fit. He hurt his ribs yesterday. Rangers will be without the suspended Davy Cooper and Stuart Munro. Aberdeen without the banned Jim Bett. And Saints, well, they hope Paul Lambert will return. A quick look at the Premier League table. Tight at the top, but Rangers, second bottom after 3 weeks, now beginning to move away from that false position. Everyone behaved themselves in the Premier League yesterday. Hooray, so no red card club this week. Instead, let's have a look at the top gates in Britain yesterday. Well, it was Liverpool's first home game of the season after they got their drains fixed, and the Brazilian Mirandinha was at Old Trafford, so those might be false figures. But Rangers are still third, and notice how far ahead they are of Spurs in 4th place. This is how Rangers' 4 Ibrox League matches have been attended, leaving them with an astonishing average of 37,377, with the big games against Celtic, Aberdeen and Hearts still to come. And instead of leading goal scorers, a detailed breakdown on top striker Ali McCoist. In 11 games this season, he's scored 16 goals, a remarkable strike rate, 1.45 goals a game. That must surely make him Britain's best. Paul Hegarty, you've marked him often enough. He's on a tremendous run of form at the moment. How good is Ali McCoist?
He is excellent. He's looking very sharp, and we played him in the first game of the season, and I think he just went from strength to strength, and obviously the 2
goals. Have a look at this goal. Mind you, it's a super pass, isn't it?
Okay, ball from Souness, made the opening for McCoyston, and very, very coolly slotted it past Westwater.
What do you try and do when you're playing against him?
Well, I can't say that really, Ian, because that would be letting the cat out of the bag, but obviously you've got to mark him very, very tight, and you've always got to be on your toes because he's liable to put the ball in the back of the net.
Paul, sorry to end on a sad story this weekend. Jim Duffy, the Dundee defender, forced to quit prematurely.
Yes.
Sad.
When I read it in the paper this morning, I could not believe it because I know Jim quite well, and he's a great professional and he's a really nice lad off the park and especially on the park as well.
Well, can I just say, I hope the rest of football's watching, and I hope that there's a place in Scottish football for Jim Duffy, one of the best pros we've had in the last 10 years.
Yes. The Scott Sport files from the past. And looking back over 30 years of continuous sports coverage, the problem as ever is what to leave out, not what to put in. This week, some football, racing, golf, and a special request from 12-year-old Laura McQueen from Edinburgh. First, an extract from an interview I had the pleasure of doing with one of the greatest of all football managers, Matt Busby, a fine player for Scotland, a magnificent boss at Old Trafford, and a survivor, of course, of the '58 Munich air disaster.
When I was ill in hospital at the time in Munich, each time I go around for the first week or two, I wanted more or less to die. I knew something terrible had happened. I knew that. The fleeting glimpses, I remember as me lying just inside with all these sort of chairs and bodies all over the place. And I remember the doctor saying something about, this one has died. And I knew it was, eventually I think it was Frank Swift. But with this, I felt each time I come round I didn't want to live, I wanted to die. And this went on for 2 or 3 weeks. And eventually one day, when I got to know the extent of the thing, my wife came in and I said, I don't want to go back to this. She said, well, I have a feeling, Matt, that these lads would want you to go back. Mm-hmm. So it started a little jam thereafter, and probably each day I started thinking, I thought, well, yes, I think I'll go back.
So Matt Busby, you can't think of Manchester United without thinking of him. Racing scoring the winning goal when Bonnie Rig Rose won the Scottish Junior Cup in 1978. Thank you. And it's signed Laura McQueen. So just for you, Laura, here's the goal your dad's always been telling you about.
He's doing most of the motivating of the side at the moment, the former Heart of Midlothian player. Chance is there, it's a goal! Davy McQueen has opened the scoring here at Hampden Park. The Stonehouse defence caught rather static, and Davy McQueen has made it. Bonnie Rig Rose 1, Stonehouse Violet 0.
Yes, final score 1-0 for the Rose, and I don't think either of these two fine sides has been in the final since then. And finally, a moment which confirms that the best laid schemes and most literary contributions of sports commentators can go adrift quicker than it takes to say, watch your back. Our much respected former colleague, Alec Cameron, outside Hampden Park, 1977.
Excitement, as you can hear and see, is really hotting up here with the arrival of the Scottish team. We hope in just a moment to have a quick word with Alan McLeod, the team manager.
Never changes. Alec Cameron and friend, and you won't be surprised to learn that that particular clip has been seen in Canada, the United States and Australia, to name but a few. In our memory lane spot next week, we pay our own tribute to the great Jim Clark. Meantime, it's news time. Here's Sally.
Tom McKean has hit the headlines again. After his disastrous performance in Rome a fortnight ago, the Addington athlete took his revenge on the new world champion, Billy Conchella of Kenya. The two met this afternoon in the men's 800 metres event in the McVitie's Challenge at Crystal Palace. The time was 52.1 at the bell. We joined the race with 200 metres to go.
McKean in the perfect place to attack. Niang still third. Conchella moving up now into fourth, ahead of John Gladwin. Tony Morell, the fast-finishing North-East athlete in the white vest and red shorts. McKean is in front in the home straight. Conchella's coming at him. And Conchella looking very quick here at the finish. McKean digs again. He wants this victory badly. And he's got it. McKean wins. Conchella second. Niang third. Morell fourth.
Well done, Tom. Rain delayed the start of the
Scottish clubs in action, home and away, beginning on Tuesday. We'll have reports, highlights, news and comment on as many matches as we can get hold of for you. From all of us to all the clubs involved, our very best wishes for a good start to a long road. Rangers gave themselves a boost at Ibrox yesterday. Let's hope that it'll be 5 out of 5 on Wednesday night.
This time to run makes the run. Brilliant play from Francis once again.
A transfer transaction today. Aberdeen centre-back, 21-year-old Gary Riddell, signed for Dunfermline for around £35,000. Tomorrow, of course, Rangers, Dundee United and St Mirren all go into action in the European Cup, the UEFA Cup and the Cup Winners' Cup. Rangers arrived in Kiev earlier today, but there was no lack of activity back at Ibrox. Giant video screens were being installed for pictures of tomorrow's match in the Soviet Union to be shown live at Ibrox.
Of late, they've been used for rock concerts. Tomorrow, they'll be used by Rangers. The Ibrox club has spent £50,000 in bringing the biggest mobile TV screens in the world to Glasgow to show the Kiev Rangers match live tomorrow afternoon. As many as 20,000 fans are expected to take their seats tomorrow to watch the action from the Soviet Union. And it's the very fact that Rangers drew Russian opposition which prompted the Ibrox club to go into the movie business.
Obviously, very few people can travel to Russia. It might as well be Mars or Venus for all the chances to have.
The screens are huge and they seem to be waterproof. In other words, they seem to be problem-free. Would you go along with that?
Just about. I mean, short of anything happening to the satellite transmission, they're virtually safe.
And Scottish television will play the major role in tomorrow's project. The live pictures from Kiev will be sent to Scottish television at Cowcaddens in Glasgow, and from there they'll be fed out immediately onto the Ibrox screens.
And it's not the first time screens have been installed at Ibrox for a European tie. 20 years ago, both away legs in the Fair Cities Cup quarter-final tie between Rangers and Leeds were relayed back to the stay-at-home fans. On March the 26th, 1968, 80,000 watched the clubs draw 0-0 at Ibrox in the first leg. On the same night, 21,000 were inside the Leeds ground to watch the action being transmitted from Glasgow. Then 2 weeks later, Scottish football history was made when a huge 43,000 Ibrox crowd watched in dismay as pictures of Leeds' 2-0 second leg victory at Elland Road were beamed back to Glasgow. Rangers fans at Ibrox tomorrow will be hoping for good viewing. Finally, Dunfermline boss Jim Leishman has signed a deal today, making him one of the highest paid managers in Scotland. His contract with the East End Park club is worth more than £150,000 over 3 years. He's worth every penny.
It's almost as much. We were unfortunate. We thought not to get a result in Russia. The way things went, you know, the game went against us in the second half. But I'm sure Rangers will have looked into the game a lot. They'll have watched the Russians in a few games. And I think they could get not a bad result over there, but I think the Glasgow return game could be just as difficult for them.
Rangers checked in at Glasgow Airport this morning for their early morning flight to Kiev. Almost 18 months after the Chernobyl disaster, the Ibrox side are taking no chances with local food, preferring to import their own. The clubs donated trackside advertising in Kiev to the Glasgow's Miles Better campaign. Chairman David Holmes explained why.
Well, we thought it was more beneficial that if we're going to go and represent Scotland in a major tournament, that we'd take our city's name. And so we offered it to Glasgow and they were very pleased to accept it, and we were pleased to carry it.
There's some irony in the fact that not too many Russians will be able to come over to see Glasgow, really.
Well, that's true, but well, we'll take it to them, a wee bit of Glasgow flavour.
What about the match itself? It's obviously one that you were looking forward to as soon as the draw was made in the summer. Are you apprehensive about it?
No, not at all. This is our first time for 9 years in a big tournament. Great experience for all the boys. We've got a lot of experienced players, and they're going to go out there and enjoy it, and hopefully we'll get some kind of result.
Meanwhile at Ibrox, 2 giant screens are being erected in front of the Govan Road stand in preparation for tomorrow's live transmission of the match. Costing almost £70,000, the club doesn't expect to make money, although tickets will be on sale until kick-off, with more than 10,000 fans expected. Rangers stress that it's an experiment, but may be repeated if voted a success by supporters.
And now the weather for tonight and tomorrow.
Hello, good evening and welcome to our midweek special. This is the night when the lights come on all over Europe. Between last night and tomorrow evening, 62 matches to be decided in the 3 big competitions in places as far apart as Iceland and Istanbul, Belgium and Bucharest, Leipzig and Lisbon. In tonight's extended programme, we'll have 2 main action reports for you. Dynamo Kiev against Rangers in the European Cup. Last night's UEFA Cup tie at Parkhead between Celtic and Borussia Dortmund. The highlights of
the night of the season. I'm joined by former St Mirren, Leeds United, Manchester United and Scotland centre-half Gordon McQueen, now manager of Airdrie, as we analyse the good times and the bad times for our European teams.
And we begin our European journeys in Russia. While 100,000 roared on Dynamo Kiev against Rangers in the European Cup, a fraction of that number converged on Ibrox Stadium to watch the match relayed from Kiev on 2 specially installed big screens. An estimated 12,000 fans paid up to £3 to see the action. Their commentator and ours was Jock Brown. Here now is his report.
Double header, you were out at Love Street earlier on this evening. We'll talk about that later.
Competition last night, Rangers, St Mirren and Dundee United have to get their minds back onto Premier League business. Rangers, of course, lost 1-0 to Dynamo Kiev in the Soviet Union yesterday, but the Ibrox men still have a great chance of winning through to the second round of the European Cup when the 2 clubs meet again in Glasgow in a fortnight's time. In the Cup, Motherwell stay home to Rangers and St Mirren meet Dundee United. Jerry McNee, match of the day must be Celtic and Aberdeen. How do you see that going?
It'll be a great match, I think. Big crowd, over 40,000 due at Parkhead tomorrow. Aberdeen haven't beaten Celtic at Parkhead for about 5 seasons now. They'll be without Neil Simpson perhaps tomorrow. I think home advantage is crucial. I could sit in the fence and this one go for the draw, but I'll say Celtic by 1-0.
Jerry, a story coming out of Love Street today on the St Mirren front, of course, that Frank McGarvey is experiencing some problems with his club.
That's right. There was a clash in the dressing room after the European tie the other night. I understand McGarvey left the ground before the game finished, and he feels very aggrieved. He will not play against Dundee United tomorrow. He'll have a meeting about his future with the manager on Sunday. But let me just take the pin out of a grenade here and roll it into proceedings. It would not surprise me if Celtic are watching this situation carefully. Remember, Billy McNeill took Frank McGarvey to Celtic first time round. He needs a striker, and I think he might go for him.
What actually caused the unrest?
Well, it was the fact that the player had been substituted. He was unhappy, and there was an incident.
And also, 2, of course, reports today from France that Celtic made a bid for Ray Stephen, who plays for Nancy.
That's right, £300,000, but that has been knocked back by the French club.
Charlie Nicholas still hasn't shown up?
He hasn't yet, but when the price is right, Charlie will get the call. It's too high at the moment.
Motherwell Rangers tomorrow, Jerry, another intriguing one, and that's all ticket.
It is 22,300. Rangers play to capacity crowds all the time these days. They'll find Motherwell difficult because last season only 1 goal in it in 3 games. Rangers to win that.
The Glasgow Marathon on Sunday, and you, of course, will be running?
I don't think so, Jim. I don't have the pace of that horse that won at Ayr today, but I'll share its name. Not so silly.
Jerry, thanks.
Little one here that's had me in hysterics. It's about Mark Hughes, and we've learned this morning that the Welsh international Mark Hughes, who of course can't get a place with Barcelona at the moment, he is wanted by someone. It's Clapton, who play in the Vauxhall Opal League. They've telexed Terry Venables. They're offering Hughes a first-team place, but they've not yet had a reply.
From the new camp to Clapton, I'm sure Mark Hughes
Sounds
can make
good.
that leap. Where are you off to this afternoon?
I'm off to Highbury, surprise, Arsenal, Wimbledon. That'll be interesting, actually.
Right. OK, have a good afternoon, Bob. Reminder of how this afternoon fits together here.
The Irish Football League have been a bit annoyed lately that we've been digging them up a bit.
So they've had a complaint, but they've also said, to show that they've got a sense of humour, we enclose one of our representative jerseys for Mr. Greaves, and we can assure you that the checks on this are much larger than the ones we get from ITV. I can assure you, lads, they're much larger than the ones we get from ITV as well. But thanks very much. It's a very nice shirt. Where's the other 10?
Actually, they come in handy, those shirts, couldn't they?
Yeah, no, well, you could. If you lay down, you can get the lads to play chess. Well, no, drafts, really. Chess is a bit... Well, you've got your Ballymena tie on as well, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Jackie Fullerton took me the other week.
Irish week this week.
So it's all Irish. No, we don't mind the Irish writing to us, you know, and we promise we won't dig them up again. But please, lads, get it right. The St and Greavsie show.
Yeah.
Jimmy, what do you think?
They got it wrong, didn't they? That's another dig up. Another shirt next week.
Now European football, and for the second successive week, Wales claimed top billing at Atlanta. Mind you, on Wednesday, Trevor was involved himself. He was on the bench with Rangers as they faced Dynamo Kiev in the European Cup.
Ferguson getting it away. And a long ball played now to Ali McCoist. Warney's tricked. Kuznetsov, still McCoist! And he almost got the ball past Shanov. Tremendous piece of individual play there by Ali McCoist. Kuznetsov beating McCoist in the air. Cohen playing it in towards McGregor. Durant is right in there. McGregor's there! Just wide. Besanov sweeping this long ball to Yaremchuk. Mihalichik battling to make something of it. The crowd. Oh, he's given a penalty. And Rangers cannot believe it. And Oleg Blokin. They seem to feel might be the man, although it's Mihailichenko who's going forward. 1-0 to Dynamo Kiev.
Well, it was a pity, Jimmy, about that goal. But having said that, Rangers looked as if they played very well, didn't they?
Might have had a goal, Saint.
McCoist is looking very, very good, and Big McGregor really should have scored there when he got through. But it was good. Now, the penalty itself, you know, looking at it there, Jim, I thought, first hand, I thought it was a penalty.
Yeah, it did actually look a penalty. You have to be fair about it. The lad gets the ball. And really, I think Graham Roberts, I don't know, maybe he didn't need to do what he did, really. I know it's easy to say after the event, but he's definitely hooked him down. You can't argue. He's taken his leg away, but he was going nowhere. There's 4 Rangers players standing there, covering it. It's just a great shame, really.
That's right.
There you are.
Yeah.
I think it was a penalty.
Now, while they were playing in front of 100,000 people over there, at Ibrox Park, you know, there was 12,000 people watching the game on big screens, Jim, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, this is the interesting thing, Ian, and this could be England's way back into Europe, couldn't it? Because it does actually sort of say to the fans, well, if you want to see the match, you can come along to our ground in England and watch it live on the screen, and that keeps everybody happy. And anybody who wants to travel abroad, you know that they only want to travel abroad for the trouble, don't you? So it sorts out the hoolies at the same time. But I think it's a very good idea and one that should be developed. And I think European people should be told that England are interested in doing that.
That's right. I mean, it's not a new idea, but it's one that England should certainly
nothing new about it, but it could get us back into Europe.
Well, funnily enough, Real Madrid were playing Napoli in the European Cup, Jim. And because of crowd trouble last year, you know, instead of the usual...
Point ahead of Celtic and Aberdeen, while Rangers, recovering after a disappointing start to the season, were 1-0 winners at Motherwell.
Top for the first time since the last day of the season before last, when they lost the championship with the clock striking midnight. Hibs could be the club to watch with transfer moves coming up. I wonder if they'll go for Middlesbrough's Bernie Slavin, a man who scores goals. They watched him last week. No real change in the goal scorers league. Saturday without an Ali McCoist goals, rather like a Friday night without a fish supper. And John Robertson continues to rattle in the penalties. And those gates, here's how they shape up in the Premier League. You can see why there's talk of a British league with the top teams doing just fine. One word of warning about the bottom sides in this gates table, though. Not all of them have entertained, if that's the right word, the old firm. We'll keep them updated. And here's the running total. 9 100,000 and 1,000 or whatever it was. If you take in the first and second division, it actually comes to over 1 million, which is the point we were trying to make. Right, to the Skull Cup semi-finals on Wednesday at Tannadice, Dundee v Aberdeen, the game we're concentrating on today, and at Hampden Park, Motherwell v Rangers. Dundee had a surprise side in the last 4 after beating Dundee United in the last round.
Bases in that Dundee side, the goalkeeper was Thompson Allen, the captain Tommy Gemmell. John Duncan and Jockey Scott were there too, while Gordon Wallace, now coach with Dundee United, scored the winning goal.
Wilson punching it forward, brought down and taken on the turn, and it's a goal! Gordon Wallace has scored for Dundee as a result of that free kick. And there he is, Tommy Gemmell with the Scottish League Cup. Dundee's first victory since 1952 when he beat Kilmarnock. What a moment for Tommy Gemmell and manager Davy White.
What I remember about it was during the power cut, and we had to leave really early to go to the game, and all the way through, going through to the game, it looked as though there was no way the game would be played. When we arrived at Hampden, they still had the boards on the goal mouth, and it took a long time, I think, for the referee to actually make up his mind that he would play the game. For me, it was a brilliant occasion because what happened, you know, it's always the schoolboy's dream to score the winning goal in a cup final, and for me it was brilliant, and I managed that.
Rangers. Now, I suppose unless you live in Motherwell, there wouldn't be many people up and down the country give them much of a chance, especially with Ali McCoist in the sort of form that he's in for Rangers.
Yeah, well, but they'll be looking at yesterday's game, and Ali didn't score yesterday, and they'll take heart from that. We've seen Ali score, I mean, he scored 14 goals this season already, and he's really looking lethal. He's playing very, very well apart from scoring all these goals, and which is making him probably the top striker in the country at the moment. I think Motherwell have their work cut out, but
especially because Motherwell in matches against Rangers so far haven't been showing an awful lot of urgency to get forward. Let's put it politely like that.
That's right. Well, I think they're certainly playing with a little bit of caution. They're desperate for the points. However, in this game, I think it's a different match altogether, and I think Tommy McLean will tell them.
And you've picked up Bobby Russell, who came on as sub yesterday, so I suppose might not be guaranteed a game, but if he is as a possible match winner for Motherwell.
Yeah, well, as an ex-Ranger, he'll be well motivated, and Tommy McLean and Tom Forsyth will know about that, and they'll have him wound up to play against his old club, and if he plays, I think he could do well. Right, now you've picked Aberdeen from the first tie, from the second one? Well, I'm sorry to apologise to the Motherwell fans, but it's got to be Rangers.
Right, it's got to be Rangers, but I tell you what, we're going to show a goal now, which is Steve Kirk's of Motherwell, and if there's any Motherwell fans watching, I'm sure they are, this is what you'll be hoping is going to happen.
Good running through by Steve Kirk into space on the right. Foster getting back, but Kirk holds him off. Still Kirk going all the way himself, and that's a marvellous goal.
So thanks, Mark. Aberdeen v Rangers at the final, which will be shown live on Scottish television on October the 25th. There was one game in England today. Here's how it finished. Newcastle 1, Liverpool 4. What price Liverpool for the championship this early? Next week, as the income tax men close in on football, we'll be asking, do our players earn too much? Do footballers give value for money? So we want your views, footballers, slaves or supers. Sir Alex Smith wasn't too happy when I had a wee go at St Mirren's strips last week. Neither, so it seems, was Michael Thomas. Here's what Michael had to say. St Mirren have the most fashionable strip around. You've got a cheek. The other week you wore a blazer that not even the loudest of young yuppies would be seen in. Well, that's his view, Michael Thomas, Crossflat Crescent in Paisley. How do you fancy this one for size, then? I tell you what, Alex Smith, if St Mirren win the UEFA Cup final, wear those strips, I'll come to the game dressed like this.
Eat your heart out, Gary Glitter. Well, ITV's highly popular professional boxing series, Fight Night, returns to
10:30, when we'll have Skull Cup semi-final action with all the news from Tannadice and Hampden Park. We're also hoping to include in our midweek programme the highlights of the Lancome Golf Tournament, which has just finished in Paris with a win for Ian Woosnam. Which also seems an appropriate point to wish Tony Jacklin and his European players the binder of the last League Cup final at Hampden Park. From all of us, bye-bye.
Stars and a fourth man, David Little, deny the charges.
19-year-old Paul Gilday said that a friendly how's things to Ted McMinn, whom he recognised from the newspapers and the television, ended up with McMinn punching him on the face. He tried to shield himself with his umbrella, but eventually landed on the ground. And when a friend, 19-year-old Craig Sampson, tried to protect him, Sampson had 2 of his front false teeth knocked out by Ali McCoist, who then shouted at him, "Come here, and I'll give your dentist really something to worry about." Sampson denied that taunts of "you're useless" from him to the 3 Rangers players resulted in the incident taking place. And he said that when he was making for the police station to report it, he had to take to his heels when McMinn, who'd just punched him in the face, began to chase him. The incident took place in the early hours of December 5th in Princess Square, East Kilbride. At the end of the first day's trial, the agent for Ali McCoist asked that if the trial was to continue tomorrow, McCoist be released by 3 p.m. Rangers are to play Motherwell tomorrow night in the Skull Cup semi-final. And an agent for McMinn said that he was now playing for Seville and would face severe contractual difficulties if he wasn't back in Spain by tomorrow. The Sheriff adjourned the trial until tomorrow morning.
Of 3 footballers this afternoon to allow Rangers stars Ali McCoist and Ian Durrant time to prepare for their club's Skull Cup semi-final match tonight. The Rangers players are appearing at Hamilton Sheriff Court along with their former Ibrox teammate Ted McMinn and a 4th man David Little. All 4 deny charges of assault on 2 East Kilbride teenagers and a breach of the peace last December. The health and safety...
Hello, a very good evening to you, and for the 3rd Wednesday in a row, a warm welcome to midweek Scott Sport. As well as the action from a tremendous Skull Cup semi-final at Hampden Park, we'll have news of the Aberdeen-Dundee match, where, as you can see, the final score was Aberdeen 2, Dundee 0. We had intended, incidentally, to cover both semis tonight, but due to circumstances entirely out with our control, we were unable to get our cameras to Tannadice. For this, our apologies to our many friends on Tayside and in the north. And for golf fans in that match between Motherwell and Rangers, where the prize was a return visit on October 25th for the final itself. A perfect night for... which means that Scotland are virtually certain not to qualify for next summer's final in Germany, no matter what they do in the remaining games. And news from Paisley
Player manager Graham Souness has been given a 5-match ban by the SFA for verbal attacks against a referee during and after last month's Old Firm match and for his most recent sending off. The ban is the 3rd imposed on the Ibrox manager in a year and could mean he'll miss next month's Skoll League Cup final.
Easter Road in August last year, and only 37 minutes into his league debut, Rangers player-manager Graham Souness is in trouble for a foul on George McCluskey. He's sent off and subsequently ordered before the SFA. Pittodrie last May, and with their first league title in 9 years within their grasp, Rangers are about to lose their manager. He's already been booked, and the high tackle earns him another red card. Parkhead last month, and Souness brings down Billy Stark. He's already been cautioned for swearing at referee David Syme. It's a 3rd red card in the space of a year for the Rangers player-manager. But it was a verbal attack on referee Syme after the Celtic match which put Souness in deep trouble. The 7 committee met at the SFA's Park Garden headquarters in Glasgow for just over an hour before Souness, accompanied by the Ibrox security advisor Alistair Hood, left the meeting, refusing to comment on the result. Shortly after, SFA Assistant Secretary Drew Herberston emerged to announce a 5-match ban on the player-manager. That comprised a 1-match suspension for verbal abuse on the park, the same for the attack on the referee off it, and a 3-game ban for exceeding the 10 penalty point mark.
What kind of warning was he given by the committee?
Mr. Souness was warned as to his future conduct.
What was his reaction to that?
I can't comment on that.
But no fine. Mr. Souness has not been fined.
No, he's not been fined at all. No.
Was Mr. Syme, the referee, present in the meeting?
Yes, as was a linesman at the match.
And can you comment on relations between Mr. Souness and the linesman and referee?
Not at all. No, can't say anything about it.
But some sports journalists were expecting a heavier penalty for the Rangers player-manager.
I think most people would regard it as perhaps a little bit lenient. Given the two previous suspensions, I think the popular expectation may have been 6 to 8. That's not a reason for saying that 6 to 8 should have been given, but I think people I talked to were thinking in that region of suspension.
There is a more serious implication here of a manager arguing and being abusive, as the SFA has said today, to a referee after a match. Now, should that be considered separately, because he has been considered only as a player here?
It is an odd one, isn't it? Because he's a player while he's on the field. You would imagine the player-manager sort of assumes quasi-managerial function the minute he goes back into the dressing room. And on the face of it, that seems a little bit odd. Or perhaps the punishment could have been divided, the suspension as the player and perhaps the fine as manager. I think the worrying implication is it will make it very difficult for Graeme Souness, obviously, to discipline his own players on the field. He has the duty to lead by example.
Souness now misses league matches against Morton, Hearts, Dundee United and Celtic. The fifth game will either be the League Cup final against Aberdeen or a league match with Dundee, which could be rearranged should the Ibrox club fail to beat Dynamo Kiev in the European Cup.
At Hamilton Sheriff Court, Rangers and Scotland striker Ali McCoist has been fined £150 for an assault on a man in East Kilbride last year. His Rangers teammate Ian Durrant was cleared on 2 charges of assault, and former Ibrox winger Ted McMinn was also cleared. A fourth accused was freed earlier.
Sheriff Francis Lunny found McCoist guilty of punching 19-year-old Craig Sampson on the face during a brawl outside an East Kilbride discotheque in December of last year. The sheriff told the footballer that he was a public figure and as such should have behaved properly. While he may have faced insults and taunts that night, he should not have responded in the way that he did. Durrant, McMinn and a fourth man originally faced a number of charges of assault and breach of the peace, but towards the end of the 3-day trial, a number of these charges were set aside. McMinn and Durrant walked smiling from the court. McCoist hurried from a side door with his lawyer, refusing to comment.
Ken Bryson reporting.
The semi-final action in midweek. It's back to Scottish League business tomorrow. Hearts, leaders of the top division, head for Dunfermline, and Jim White has the details.